If you haven't seen the previous parts yet, you will find their link in the description. Check out now. Let's start. After watching Seon in action, the chairman says to him that his power is the reason why he's acting so arrogant. Seon asks him if he's doing this because he disobeyed him. The chairman then tells him that Hage has powers that no civilian should have. He also emphasizes that Seon should know this as an elder of the Murim. Seon doesn't respond and asks the chairman to let Hage go. If he did so, Seon would accept his invitation. Hage screams at Seon to not do that as the chairman would kill him if he went with him. He rushes forward, but the chairman grabs him in a chokehold, squeezing Hage's neck. The chairman demands to know how he can lie to him after stealing the Murim's powers. Hage tells him he can't be fooled as he heard his henchman talking earlier. The chairman angrily asks him what he heard. But before Hage even has the chance to reply, the chairman gets attacked with a punch from Seon. Hage watches them fight in shock. The chairman then manages to land a kick on Seon. Hage tries to call out to Seon but is unable to do as his voice is gone. He then realizes that he isn't able to move either. The chairman asks Seon if he really thought he could surprise him with an attack. Seon asks the chairman what he did to Hage. He says he simply silenced him for a moment by squeezing his paralysis and mute channels. Seon asks why he won't let Hage talk. Seon wants to know what he's trying to cover up. The chairman asks Seon to not believe what Hage said about him wanting to kill Seon. To this, Seon says that he trusts Hage more than he trusts him. Furiously, the chairman says Seon is blinded by confidence as he has some Kai in him. He then says he would give him a chance to fight him. He challenges Seon to beat him and release Hage's mute channel. Hearing this, Hage is sure that there's no way the old man can beat Seon as Seon is stronger. Seon steps towards the chairman to attack him but is stopped with a whack from his fist. He comments that Seon has a good Kai sense. Seon fights back, landing a series of equally hard punches. The chairman asks if that was the Seonu clan's cloudburst attack, but the chairman is unharmed and asks Seon if he really thought such an attack would work against him. Lunging forward, Seon raises his fists and aims to beat up the chairman yet again. Hage watches this in horror as cars are thrown around and shattered. Watching the intense fight, Hage can't believe what's happening. He can't seem to understand why even though Seon is attacking with terrifying power, the old man seems completely unfazed. To Hage, it doesn't even look like he's fighting him, it looks like he's toying with Seon. The chairman punches Seon again, sending him flying. Out of anger, Seon asks if he wants to be killed. Director Lee asks Seon how he could behave like this in the presence of the chairman. She gets closer to Seon in an attempt to fight, and Hage is worried that even taking on one person is too difficult for Seon, and now there's two people. The chairman tells Lee that Seon is still young and they'd have to teach him what he needs to know little by little. Seon just stares without saying a thing, and the boss asks him why he stopped. He swiftly walks towards Seon and places his fist right in front of his face and asks Seon if he's scared. Hage is surprised at how quickly the chairman moved towards Seon. It's called Phantom Feet, and to those who haven't seen it before, the chairman's foot technique would look like magic. Removing his fist, the chairman says that Seon's powers are just a mere illusion compared to his, and then says that judging by the way he fought Director Lee, it appears that he only uses Seonu clan martial arts techniques. He also compliments that the Seonu clan's martial arts style is remarkable as the main focus of the Seonu clan is agility, but the issue is the energy flowing through Seon, because it was created using the Hyunwon clan's Kai technique. The Hyunwon clan's martial arts style prioritizes tranquility above all. The techniques would appear smooth and slow, but within that there's tremendous power, he says while demonstrating by exploding something nearby. He further says that martial arts styles are a combination of Kai techniques and martial arts techniques. So even if one had the greatest Kai technique or martial arts style in the world, their martial arts style wouldn't be complete unless there's a balance between these elements. This is why most martial arts sects learn both Kai techniques and martial arts techniques at the same time. Seon doesn't say anything to this, and Hage doesn't understand what's going on. He thought the chairman was going to kill Seon, but instead he's explaining all this to him. The chairman then concludes by saying that if Seon wanted to learn proper martial arts style, he should stop being stubborn and become his disciple. Seon lets him know he's already well aware of that. He knows that his Kai doesn't match the Seonu clan's martial arts techniques. The chairman asks him why he keeps using the same techniques if he already knows that. To this, Seon replies that it's because he is the head of the Seonu clan. and that he refuses to abandon the Seonu clan's techniques now and in the future. The chairman calls him foolish after hearing his reply. Seon tells him he appreciates his advice. Unexpectedly, Seon quickly moves to where Hage is and releases his pressure points. It hurts Hage at first, but then he feels relieved that he can move finally. Seon tells the chairman that phantom feet is the most basic foot technique, and until he'd used it now, he'd forgotten that he'd even learnt it. Seon then asks Hage to finish saying what he was going to earlier. So Hage says that while Seon was gone, the chairman's henchmen broke into his apartment and tried to kill him. Seon asks how he knows they're his men. Hage says Jinny told him so. Hage also says that someone named Mungama, who works for the chairman, was there and that he even held a knife to Jinny's throat. Asking if this is true, Seon asks the chairman to explain himself. The chairman says this is nonsense. He says Hage first acquired Miram power despite being a civilian, and now he's slandering him with ridiculous accusations. Hage asks what does him being a civilian have to do with this. The chairman says that the Miram made an unbreakable agreement with the world that they would be invisible for the sake of mutual coexistence, and anyone who breaks this rule has committed a sin worthy of death. Hage looks at Seon, thinking that even though he knew what Seon did for him was special, he didn't know it was such a big deal. He wonders why Seon would risk so much just to help him. The chairman asks again why Hage has Miram energy. He then says that if Seon, the head of the clan, is the one that gave him power, the whole clan would be held responsible. Hage thinks that he has to do something to help the situation. He tells them he has a question. He asks them if the problem here is that he's a civilian. The chairman says of course. So Hage says that he could become a Miram warrior too, and that would solve everything. Seon and the chairman are taken aback. The chairman shouts that he cannot just choose to become a Miram warrior. In order to be a Miram warrior, he would have to be from a family of Miram warriors or join martial arts at a young age. He finishes by saying it's impossible for one to become a Miram at his age. Seon then says that he became a Miram warrior at Hage's age too, so there's no reason why he couldn't be a Miram warrior as well. The chairman calls it absurd. Seon says that Hage is now part of the Seonu clan. He then asks the chairman if he really sent his men to kill him. He pauses for a while and says nothing before denying the accusations and calling them baseless. Seon then says that he saw the chairman's men beating up Hage. If they had nothing to hide, why would they beat up someone who came to see Seon? The chairman tries to say that Seon is mistaken, and Seon says that if he wanted to talk, he'd have to talk to his dead body. Seon stands in front of the chairman in fury. Director Lee goes up to the chairman and whispers to him that she tried contacting the Dark North Star, but was unable to reach him. She also says that the Seonu clan is currently searching the city following the Stormy Wave sect. The chairman grits his teeth in anger. Hage flinches upon seeing this. He wonders how this old man can give off such a scary vibe by just standing there. He hopes he doesn't use the phantom feet technique to move quickly to them and attack them again. Then the chairman lets out a sigh, and Hage notices that the scary aura around him disappeared all of a sudden. He orders Lee to contact the Red Southern Star and tell him to come pick up their leader. She informs that she messaged him, and the chairman starts walking towards Hage and Seon. He asks Hage what his name is. He says it's Hage Kang. The chairman then says he'd see how long he lasts in the Miram and walks away from them. While Hage wonders if it was a threat, Seon says to the chairman that Eternal Kai is what Ryong is after. The chairman asks if that's why Seon came here tonight, because he wanted to find that out. He then says that with all the rumors about Ryong going around nowadays, he can see why Seon wanted to know what he's up to. Seon now asks if he was the one that arranged the visit from the Miram Special Affairs Bureau. The chairman says one of the greatest sects in the Miram hadn't been active for months, and their leader had a debilitating injury, so anyone would have been curious to know what was going on. Continuing to walk away, he finishes by saying that this wasn't the meeting he had in mind, but it's enough for him to know that Seon is alive and well. Seon then asks him what Eternal Kai is. The chairman asks him why he's still talking after saying that he was done talking to him. He also tells Seon to not even think about going after Ryong, as he wouldn't stand a chance against him in his current state. All of a sudden, he gets blurry and disappears into thin air. Hage thinks that Miram warriors are like sorcerers. He then asks Seon if he's okay. Seon responds by grabbing his t-shirt and asking how the hell he knew he was here. Hage explains that after Jinny left, he heard Mungama mention this place. Seon scolds him by saying that it was dangerous to show up here. Hage apologizes and says that Seon has done so much for him, so he tried to look out for him too. Letting go of Hage, Seon says that he only helped because he felt sorry for him briefly. He then says that he noticed Hage has the same Kai channel disorder that he used to have. He explains that people with Kai channel disorder are naturally weak and working out wouldn't help, but it could kill. but it could be cured using the Murum's pills and Kai techniques. Seon then says that he made a foolish mistake as he didn't know Hage would have so much Kai left after the treatment. Hage tells him that he has no idea what any of this means, but he's all better now because of him, so that's a good thing. Seon yells, asking how it's a good thing. He reminds Hage that he just announced that he'd become a Murum warrior in front of everyone. He also says that he can't run away now and has to join the Murum. All he wanted was to cure his Kai disorder. He says to Hage that he didn't want to drag him into the shitty Murum world. Hage says that Seon need not worry about him becoming a Murum warrior as he chose this himself. If something happened to him, it'd be his own fault. Seon argues that he has no idea what the Murum is like. Hage replies that he knows Seon is worried, but he's also the reason that he's still alive. He then says he doesn't care what the Murum world is like. He just wants to be in the same world as Seon because he likes him. Seon is speechless, and Hage points out that if the Murum was as bad as he says it is, it still wouldn't be around. It seems to be doing fine in its own little corner of the world. Hage then says that there must be a lot of people who like the Murum as well. Hearing this, Seon is reminded of his past when an older man told Seon that he likes this place. He'd told Seon that this place may seem barbaric to someone like him who was born as a civilian, but to those born and raised as Murum warriors, the Murum is home. He'd hoped that Seon would see the Murum as his home too someday. Seon tells Hage he's right because there are people who like the Murum. Watching them both from the rooftop of a building is a man. He says he's glad Seon's alive. Hage looks up and asks who he is. Seon thanks him for getting here quickly. He says he wouldn't want Seon to get hurt because he was late, leaving Hage confused as ever. Hage asks the guy if he's from the Seonu clan too. When asked who he is, Hage says that he's a friend who's hoping to join the clan soon. Suddenly, they hear cars vroom around them. They come to a screeching halt in front of them. Men dressed in suits get out of them and march towards them. Hage freaks out, thinking that the people they saw before are back. Seon then says it's time for him to introduce Hage. All the men clasp their hands and bow their heads. Seon says that this is Hage's new family, the Seonu clan. Later, Seon takes Hage to the elders, Min and Kim, the main elders of the Seonu clan. He asks them to welcome Hage to the clan. Min says that it doesn't seem like the right place to discuss this, so he asks Seon if they can go inside. Hage feels like they don't like him very much and regrets coming to this place. Seon asks Jenny to take Hage to the library and treat his wounds. She angrily asks why she has to be the one to do it. Hage thinks Jenny definitely doesn't like him. Seon says please and says they can't leave a guest by himself. Without a choice, Jenny agrees. She yells at Hage to go with her. While she's fixing up his wounds, Hage asks her if she lives here too. He then asks if Seon is from a rich family because his house is huge. She plasters a bandage on his forehead while saying that he shouldn't act like he knows them. She says she kept quiet about this on purpose in case others found out Seon gave out the primal panacea. Hage asks if the primal panacea is really that valuable. Jenny asks how many times she's supposed to tell him that it's valuable. She then says that now that he's bandaged up, it would be his turn to talk. Jenny wants to know how Hage ended up here with Seon. Seon is having a discussion with the elders and others. He apologizes to them for giving away one of the clan's treasures without asking. Min says that as much as it bothers him, there's other things he finds more troubling, like how it was irresponsible of Seon to receive treatment from Dr. Demon Hand and meet with the head of the Martial Arts Alliance. Jubyum says that if Seon was going to meet with such people, he should have at least consulted them. Seon just asks if they would have allowed him if he'd consulted them. Seon says that he asked them to bring Dr. Demon Hand when he was lying in bed sick. He talks about how each time they refuses his requests because the clan wasn't on good terms with the doctor. Seon continues to say that people were circulating rumors that the Seonu clan was finished because Seon was on his deathbed while he was recovering. He asks him if he was just supposed to lie in bed and do nothing. The guy notices how Seon's attitude has changed completely as he used to be meek and timid. Min asks him to calm down and says that Gyuman has appeared in the Murum again, and that's not good for many reasons. It could create negative ripples among other sects and within the Seonu clan. Seon asks Min if he's worried what they might think or if he doubts his hatred towards Gyuman. Everyone in the room is stunned after hearing this. Min quickly says that he's just stating the current situation. He says one of Seonu clan's prized possessions landed in the hands of a civilian boy and asks how Seon expects them to accept him as a member of their clan all of a sudden. He then says that he understands why Seon wants to help Hage but is doubtful whether Seon would be able to face Gyuman in his current state. Seon says that helping Hage is a personal desire of his, but he's well aware of his responsibilities as the head of the clan. He then says that if Min strongly opposed the idea, he would destroy Hage's energy center and take his power for himself. To this, Min asks if this is why Seon made Wim wait in a different room. After hearing Hage explain his side of the story, Jinny says Mungi Ma and Seon know each other. Hage realizes this is why it was easy to escape from him. She then asks why Hage didn't call the clan if he knew where Seon was. Hage says it all seemed like a trap. He asks Jinny why Mungama made such a big fuss if he was going to tell them where Seon was anyway. Jinny says it's probably because he didn't want the head of the association to find out. Hage asks if it was the same guy Seon met. Jinny replies that he's the Seonu clan's arch-enemy and Mungama works for him. Jinny then lets Hage know that they're done talking and want to meet him. They enter and Hage feels the tension in the room. Min gets up, towering over Hage, sticks his hand out and welcomes Hage to their clan. Hage shakes his hand and thanks him while the rest of the room claps. Elder Kim says that it's enough for today and the clan leader needs to rest. Kim and Min get into their car and drive away. They talk about how the clan leader has changed. Min says that he's much better than before. He also says that he gave him primal panacea to recover and it's too bad that he gave it to someone else. So Kim asks him what he thinks about Hage. Min asks what he means and Kim says that he checked his pulse when he shook Hage's hand earlier, and those who have recovered from a Kai disorder are in perfect shape to learn martial arts. Min then says that depending on the number of Kai channels blocked, Kai disorder is hard to treat. But the chances of a kid like Hage making a full recovery was less than winning the lottery. Kim asks him in shock what he's trying to say. Min says that Hage won the lottery. Jinny says she'd take Hage home. Hage happily says that if she doesn't mind he'd gladly go with her. Hage is immediately held back by a guy who says if he saw Hage flirting with Jinny again, he'd be dead. Kim says to Min that Miram warriors have to train for at least 10 years to attain full recovery, but Hage has already achieved it. So he asks if the primal panacea is that powerful. Min says that it's not only because of the primal panacea, it's because the clan leader boosted the primal panacea with his own Kai. Kim says he can't believe how much Kai the leader has to be able to cure a Kai disorder in one attempt. After receiving Demon Hands treatment, he's a completely different being altogether. Seon asks Jubium if he can have a word with him. Jubium asks the rest of them to leave. Then Seon tells him that he's experiences having his energy center shattered and it was extremely painful, but he also knew how dangerous it could be when it's not under control. Earlier, during the discussion, Jubium had suggested that if there's no place for Hage in the Miram, removing his power would be the right thing to do. Min is shocked at hearing this but says that it isn't easy for a civilian to become a Miram warrior, and it's especially difficult to become a member of the Seonu clan. He then says to Seon that if Hage poses any kind of threat to the clan, Seon should take away his power. Min says if Seon promises to do so, then he'd have no objection to letting him join the clan. Kim agrees and asks if anyone in the room objects. Everyone says they're okay with it. After this, Seon thanks them for allowing this as it wasn't an easy decision. One of the clan members tells Deeson that the leader used to be a softie but now he's helping the kid. Deeson tells him that Seon was bound to change eventually. It's the only way to make it in the Miram. He then says that he should go home and get some rest as they will be busy from now because the clan leader is back. He replies that he's already getting a headache thinking about the backlash from other clan members. When Seon is done speaking, he asks Jubium if Jinny is right about there being suspicious activity within the clan. Jubium says he's not sure but there's something bothering him. He takes out his phone and shows a picture of the chairman of Seongyi Group, Gilnam Yang. He reminds Seon that he must remember him from the clan meetings he always attends. He also says that he's an outstanding martial artist and sociable, so he's well liked within the clan. But there's been rumors that he's been in contact with another sect recently. Yang denied this rumor, but ever since then, it feels to Jubium like other clan members have been siding with him. Some people suspect that clan members are planning to leave the clan. Seon says that most of the clan's assets are registered in their names. Jubium says he's right and Seon asks what would happen if they all left. Jubium says the Seonu clan would go bankrupt immediately. A man comes to Gilnam Yang and informs him that he just received word that the Seonu clan leader is back. He also says that he believes there would be a clan meeting soon. Yang asks everyone to pay attention and lets them know the Seonu clan leader is back and that they should all congratulate him. Yang then raises his glass to make a toast. Suddenly, he stands up, asks to be excused and leaves the room. He goes up to a man sitting on a chair and tells him that he shouldn't show up unannounced like this because it puts him in an awkward position. Picking up a cup, the chairman says he just wanted to enjoy some tea with a good view. He tells Kang about how the clan leader seems to be quite healthy. They then wonder why he was inactive for so long. Kang asks if he has any more information about Seon regarding his potential weaknesses. The chairman says that Kang is obvious because it's evident that he just seeks the chairman's help because he's after Seon's fortune. Young tells the chairman that he would benefit tremendously too if the Seonu clan fell apart. The chairman says to Young that he doesn't like people like him because he can never know what they're thinking. Young says it's a coincidence because he can't stand the chairman either for the exact same reason. Setting the cup down, the chairman says he would tell him something about the clan leader. He asks Young to look into a boy named Hage Kang and says he'd be quite amused by what he finds. Ginny drops Hage off at his place. Hage then asks her what he's supposed to do tomorrow and whether he should go see Seon. She tells him to just stay at home because his new teacher would come to pick him up. Hage is surprised because he thought Seon would be the one to teach him, so Ginny says that Seon doesn't have the time for that because it's his first time being back in a long while. Seon would be extremely busy. Hage then asks her if there's any problems within the Seonu clan. Ginny asks Hage to not worry about that and just worry about himself. Hage asks her what she means and she explains that Hage still has some energy left from when Seon cured his Kai disorder, so he could accidentally use too much power if he wasn't careful. But the energy would disappear in a few days, so he'd just have to be careful until then. Hage flops onto his bed and thinks what an awesome day it's been. Before this morning, he had no idea such a world existed. For some reason, he couldn't stop thinking about that fight. He wonders if he'd be as strong as Seon if he learnt martial arts from the Seonu clan. The next morning, Hage wakes up, feeling well rested. He wonders when Ginny is going to call him when he suddenly realizes that he doesn't have a phone. So there's no way for Seonu clan to contact him. Just then, the doorbell rings and two men are at the door. They ask if Hage-kun is here. Hage asks them if they're from Seonu clan. They ask him how he knew and Hage says he could sense their Muram warriors. Hage immediately says that they must be here to pick him and asks them to give him a minute to get ready. In a while, they're driving Hage in a car wondering why he looked like he was waiting for them. They take Hage to a warehouse and Hage asks them if this is where he'd be learning. One of the men asks what the hell he's talking about as they just brought him here to ask questions. Hage asks if he's been kidnapped. The men say that he's been invited, not kidnapped. Il-nam Young shows up and asks Hage if they can talk for a minute. Hage asks Chairman Young who he is. Young tells him that he is the one that invited him. He asks Hage to show him his hand. Hage refuses to do so and says he is aware that he's trying to find out something. Young chuckles at this and calls him clever. Young then reaches into his jacket and pulls out a stack of money. He hands it to Hage, who asks what this is. Young says it is allowance. Young comments that it's a lot of money for a high schooler. He asks Hage to tell him what he knows about the Seonu clan leader as a way of thanking him for the money. Young also questions how Hage turned from being an ordinary civilian to a member of the Seonu clan so quickly. Hage questions Young back about who he is and if he is part of the Seonu clan too. Young says it does not matter and what's important is how lucky Hage is because of all the money he made thanks to Seon. Hage thinks how he owes everything to Seon and this is why he could never betray him. Saying this, he gives the money back to Young. Young asks Hage if he's aware the current leader of the clan is only the acting head. Hage is surprised upon hearing this and Young says that the leader of the Seonu clan is actually someone else and the current head is only filling for him temporarily. He says the Seonu clan is one of the most powerful clans in the Muram. They're even wealthier than most conglomerates, and yet, the current leader is an 18-year-old who used to be a civilian. Young tells Hage that this means Seon won't live long, and this is what happened with the previous leaders of the clan too. Young now asks Hage to think carefully whether he wants to side with a stand-in leader. Hage replies that that's why something seemed off about Seon. Young is confused and Hage apologizes and says he's slow to understand this kind of stuff. He then asks Young to keep the money and let him go. Young says he would explain in a way Hage would understand. A man shows up with a briefcase of money and Young asks if Hage understands now. He tells Hage that his mother would be pleased as she works hard as a truck driver to support Hage. Young tries to tempt Hage by saying she could buy a new truck or find a new job which isn't so dangerous with the money. Hage then asks Young if he has died before. He tells Young that he has and Seon brought him back to life. He says he owes Seon his life and so, he can't trade that for any amount of money. Hage tells him to forget about bribing him before walking away. So Young says he is going to have to change tactics. Before Hage realizes he's been attacked, he flies from the impact and slams onto the ground. Placing his staff on his neck, Young has Hage pinned to the ground and asks if he has changed his mind yet. Hage tries to get the staff off him and says that Murams are so predictable. They first try to sweet talk him and then threaten when that does not work. Young tells Hage he would see how strong he really is and pushes the stick against Hage's neck. Hage trembles from being choked while trying to pry it off him and manages to do so after a while. Falling to his side, he gasps and coughs. Young says Hage has quite a bit of Kai in him, so he'd have to use his own Kai too. Hage watches Young and thinks that something about him changed. He isn't even touching Hage, but Hage feels like he can't breathe. Young brings his staff close to Hage again and says he would ask one last time if he accepts his offer. Hage screams and says he won't and asks him to let him go. After this, Young simply asks Secretary Kim to take Hage home and leaves. Hage gets up in shock and confusion, and Young tells Hage to not get too close to the clan leader unless he wanted to die. After dropping Hage off at his house, Secretary Kim asks him not to tell anyone about what happened today. If Hage did so, they'd wipe him out. He then tosses a stack of money to Hage and says it's the allowance from Chairman Young. Hage asks him to wait, but Kim speeds away in the car. Hage angrily thinks that he never asked for the money. He then thinks that the money isn't bad after all. Hage wonders if something would happen to Seon. Seon is with Chairman Young. Young tells Seon to not play games with him and that he met Hage before coming here. He says how surprised he was to see the amount Kai Hage had despite being a civilian a while ago. Seon says he did use one of the clan's treasures on a civilian and made him a member of the clan. So Young tells him that the reason clan members have been loyal to the Seonu clan is because Elder Kwon was a powerful leader. He says that Seon is acting however he pleases even in the absence of Kwon. He states that he's just a stand-in leader and cannot get away with it. Jubyum says to Young that this is uncalled for, but Sinon cuts him off and says Young is right, as he used to think that this was just a temporary arrangement. So he'd intended to simply remain out of sight and resign when the time came. But the two elders had felt differently. They considered Seon as the true leader of the clan, and so he had to step up his duties because they put their lives on the line to defend Seon as the clan leader. Seon concludes by saying that he refuses to back down from the responsibilities given to him, even if it destroys him. Young asks Seon if he thinks he's strong enough for the job, and Seon asks Young if he would like to see it for himself. Hage walks around, looking for Seon's place. He knows this isn't his business, but he is worried about Seon. He comes across a car that looks familiar to him. Suddenly, the door opens and the man shouts at Hage, saying that he just warned him about this. Hage sweats in fear until he sees Ginny drive by on her bike. Hage yells out her name, but his mouth is immediately covered by the man. Hage manages to take his hand away and crack it in the process. When the men are distracted, Hage runs towards Ginny. After stopping, she asks him what he's doing here, as she had told him not to come here. Hage tells her it's not what she thinks and points behind him, only to realize that the car and men have disappeared. Hage wonders where they went. When asked who he is talking about, Hage says it's the people who abducted him. He then asks Ginny if Seon is okay, and Ginny asks him why he's so panicky. Hage tries to tell Ginny that nothing like this has happened to him before, but is cut off by Seon, who is thrown out of a window, causing the glass to shatter to pieces. Young shows up and tells him he's too slow and flips him again with his eagle staff. Seon attempts to attack Young back with a kick but lands on the ground again. With a swift kick, Young sends Seon flying. Young sends a series of attacks his way. Seon gets bashed and whacked, and when he finally comes down, his clothes are ripped, but he is still standing. Young is surprised that Seon was able to handle the twin dragon combo technique. Hage and Ginny come to his side and ask if he is okay. Hage then recognizes Young and says that that's the guy. Ginny then shouts at Young and asks what he's doing. Seon tells Ginny to get back, as he was the one that challenged Young. Ginny is surprised. Jubyum says that the clan leader challenged Young to a duel and Young accepted. Ginny asks why they would do it at home like this. Young walks away, saying he looks forward to what Seon has to say at the meeting. When he passes by Hage, Young tells him to remember his advice. Looking at his hands, Seon says the Seonu clan's techniques sure are powerful. Hage asks them who that man is and lets them know that he met Young briefly that morning. Ginny says it's Chairman Young, an important figure in the Seonu clan. Ginny feels frustrated that this was supposed to be a secret, and it's only been less than a day, but Young had already found out about Hage. Jubyum says it's not surprising considering the kind of influence that Young has within the clan. Ginny asks Seon what Young wanted. Seon says it was nothing much and that Young had asked him to step down as leader. Young is going back in his car, talking to two men. They ask him if he really told Seon to step down. Young says he did, and the men say it's too soon, as Seon has the support of two elders of the clan. Young says Seon may have learnt some advanced martial arts, but he is still a kid who can't control his emotions. He says even the slightest challenge to his pride sends him into a fury, so the elders won't keep defending such an immature boy forever. Ginny tries to call up Young, but he doesn't answer. Hage asks if she knows Young. She says her grandfather raised him, but he completely changed after her grandfather passed away. Seon gets ready to train and asks Ginny to look after Hage. She asks why she should as she is busy too. Seon says please, and so Jinny can't resist and agrees to it. Paige notices this and tells her she has a soft spot for Seon, making Jinny angry. Jubium asks Seon if they should tell the elders about what happened today. Seon disagrees and says Yong is after him. If he did not step up, nothing will change even with the help of the elders. He asks Jubium not to worry and says he would think of a solution. In his room, Seon sits on the floor and begins his training with visuals of him and Chairman Yong. Jinny is bothered over how Seon has not left his house in the past few days. She wonders what he is doing in there. She has not been able to contact Yong either. Jinny notices Hage working out behind her and yells at him, asking why he's here. Hage simply says Seon put her in charge of him. She replies that it was only for one day and he is not supposed to keep coming over to her house to train. Hage says he has no teacher yet and asks her to let him train here. She says he must be clueless and that she's worried about Seon because even the clan members don't take him seriously. She says that it is not just Yong but a lot of clan members are eager to bring Seon down, and that is the reason he's been stressed recently. Hage asks her why Seon helped him as he wouldn't even consider helping someone if he was in that situation. Jinny says Seon did this because he puts people around him first. Hage asks her if that is why she likes him. She beats up Hage saying she doesn't like him. She then tells him if he's going to practice he should at least do it right by not repeating the same moves. She tells him he should be focusing more on how to use his Kai. Martial arts is a training process of accumulating Kai and gradually applying it to one's technique over time. She says it doesn't matter if he has a lot of Kai. It's useless unless he learns to apply it to his technique. While whacking the wooden dummy, she says that is why he is supposed to practice aligning his Kai with his form while doing those basic moves. To this, Hage says that martial arts is about accumulating Kai through Kai techniques and unleashing it in the form of martial arts techniques. Jinny is surprised to hear this and Hage says he heard this from the head of the alliance the other day. He tells Jinny how amazing the old man was when he stuck his hand out to explode stuff. She angrily tells him not to compliment him as he is their arch enemy. Hage then says he was pretty powerful and asks Jinny if there's anyone in the clan strong enough to fight the old man. Jinny says there used to be someone who was one of the 10 great masters like the old man. She says she would show Hage one of his techniques and proceeds to do so. She demonstrates a heaven-shaking thunder strike, making the wooden dummy break into pieces upon punching it. Hage is impressed and amazed, but Jinny says she messed it up again as it was nothing compared to how her grandfather did it. Hage tells her that it wasn't nothing because she destroyed the dummy. Jinny says if she had done it correctly, there wouldn't even be a trace of that wooden dummy left. Hage asks Jinny if she could teach him this technique too. She tells him not to try to fly before he can walk and orders Hage to train his Kai and align it with his moves and says that maybe then Seon wouldn't worry so much. Seon gets off the phone with the elders who say they would see him at the clan meeting. Hanging up, Seon tells Jubium that the elders must have heard about what happened with Yong. Jubium says it might not be a good idea to turn down the elders' help as Chairman Yong is extremely powerful. Seon says he's not sure what's gonna happen as Yong has many tricks up his sleeve. Yong is discussing with his men. He says that Seon turned down the elders' help as expected. They all laugh, saying how immature the clan leader is to throw away his only lifeline. Yong then says everything is going according to plan, so there's no need to wait any longer and he'd finally settle everything at the clan meeting. Hage is exhausted after the intense training. Jinny comments that he's improved in the last few days. She asks him to head home, but Hage asks her to teach him the heaven-shaking thunder strike the next day. Hitting him, she says she would never teach him. Hage walks home feeling tired. Suddenly, someone asks him if he is headed home. Hage is shocked to see that it's none other than Chairman Yong. He says he heard Hage's been practicing with Jinny and says that he must have just finished for today. Hage asks him how he knew and Yong says he was in the area, and some friends of Jinny told him. Yong asks Hage how his training is going and Hage says Jinny said he's doing well. Yong then asks if he thought about his offer. Hage says he's told him several times that he is not interested. He then asks Hage if he knows there's a clan meeting today. Hage says he knew about the meeting but did not know it was today. So, Yong offers to give Hage a ride to the meeting and asks him to get in. At the meeting, Seon walks in and everyone greets him respectfully. Seon thanks them and says it has been a while. One of the clan members notices a group of people and thinks something's off about them. Yong then walks in and apologizes for being late. Jinny notices Hage walking alongside Yong and shouts at him, asking why he is with them. Hage replies he tagged along because they said there's a clan meeting. Jinny yells saying that the clan meetings are not some kind of a playground and only important members are invited to it. Hage begins to say that Yong invited him, but he is cut off by Yong, who introduces him as the newest member of the Seonu clan. He says that just a while ago, Hage was an ordinary civilian who had no idea about the Murim's existence, but now he is a member of the distinguished Seonu clan. He asks Seon to answer how that happened. Hage accuses Young of kidnapping him, to which Young says that Hage was the one that accepted his invitation. Furious, Hage smacks Young and tells him he's tired of him pushing him around. Young's men grab Hage before he can punch him and grab him by his neck and threaten to snap it. Jinny asks them what they think they're doing. Young talks about how irresponsible the current leader is because he gave away one of the clan's treasures, Primal Panacea, to a civilian and made him join the clan. He raises an envelope and says that there are other members of the clan who feel the same way as him and they demand the immediate resignation of the clan leader. He then says that if this demand is not met, he and the others who signed the petition would leave the clan. Jinny yells, saying that they are just using the clan leader as an excuse for money by trying to steal the clan's assets. A man asks her to shut up and stay out of this. Another clan member steps up and says he would gladly kick anyone who patronizes Jinny. Elder Kim says he and Elder Min are standing right here and warns everyone to not make him angry. Hage watches in shock, wondering how Kim has a terrifying aura all of a sudden. Young apologizes and says he did not mean to disrespect them, but it took a great deal of courage for him and others to write the petition. Min asks to see it and questions how many people signed it. Young says that he cannot show it to him as it's between them and the clan leader, but Seon could see the petition and only if he agrees to resign. Min says that an anonymous petition is interesting. He also says how Young's name could be the only one in it, but the clan leader must resign if he wanted to see it. Young says that most of the people here could have signed it. He then tells Seon it's time to decide if he wants to accept his proposal or remain in the clan in spite of everyone leaving. Seon says he would get straight down to business and walks towards Young. He suddenly flips the table, making it explode above him. It crumbles to the ground in pieces. Taken aback, everyone watches the twin dragon combo technique. Seon tells Young they would settle this like Murim warriors. People talk amongst themselves, wondering when the leader learnt this technique. Seon then asks elders Kim and Min for permission to fight Chairman Young. Seon says that if he wins, he would be able to whatever he wanted to do with Young in that list. Kim tells Min they should stop him as even the leader would not be able to defeat Young. Min tells Kim that Seon's already made up his mind and announced his intention to duel in front of everyone. So Min asks Young what he thinks. Young says he'd be willing to fight Seon if he allowed it. Hage is worried he's going to see another fight like the one he saw before. After attacking Seon again, Young tells him he's too slow. He attempts to whack him with his staff, but Seon dodges it. And when Young least expects it, Seon manages to kick Young. Young notes how different Seon's attacks feel now from before. Seon tells him he is not gonna hold back this time and prepares to attack. Young says that's good because he doesn't intend to go easy on him either. Hage watches the fight, thinking something is different about Young now. Earlier, Jubium had told Seon how in Young's youth, people had high expectations of him and thought he would surpass Elder Kwon. But he lost his leg in a mishap and decided he would focus more on business than martial arts. But still, his Iron Thunder leg and Eagle Staff are not to be taken lightly. Jubium says that when Young activates his prosthetic leg, he is quicker than ever. Seon remembers Jubium words as he continues to fight Young. Jubium had also said that even more dangerous than his footwork was the Eagle Head Staff, which would come at him when he least expects it. The staff was like an extension of his arm that he used sometimes like an iron mace, sometimes like a hook, and sometimes like a sword. Jubium had said Seon would have to find a way to overcome these two obstacles of the Iron Thunder leg and the Eagle Head Staff if he wanted to beat Young. Some men talk amongst themselves that Young has already activated his Iron Thunder leg and hope he ends this soon so they could go and have drinks. Suddenly, Seon manages to attack Young. Young notes that Seon is just buying time until he adjusts to the Iron Thunder leg's speed so he can try to strike back when he lets his guard down. Young thinks it's an impressive strategy for someone so young. Using his staff, he causes Seon to flip again, making him spin and flings him away. Young then says it is time for this to end. A series of flashing lights and banging sounds are heard. Jinny screams Seon's name in worry while the men on Young's side are glad it's over. But they soon see Seon fly out of the debris. Young jumps up and follows him and tries to attack with the Eagle Head Staff, but Seon grabs it and kicks while taking the staff away. Hage watches Seon in amazement. Seon tells Young that he slipped up and breaks the staff by smashing it. Seon says it's a shame he can't use his weapon anymore. He then asks Young why he wishes to keep fighting. Young quietly walks up to him and throws a punch at Seon, making him crash into the wall behind him. He continues to kick and beat until the wall crumbles and Seon dodges it by getting out of the way. Young then says that the Eagle Head Staff was not even a weapon. If anything, it was preventing him from making full use of his Iron Thunder leg. He says to Seon that it's going to get more dangerous now and asks if he still wants to continue. Jinny tries to say no, but Seon says he is really looking forward to this. So that is it for this video, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. So if you like the video, then hit that like button and leave a comment for the next part. Most important, subscribe and press the bell icon for notification. I will meet you in the new video. Till then, bye.